Fallout 3 has a lot of weapons in it. Some are better at close range, some at long range, some you use as traps, and others just flat out don't exist at all. But there's one weapon that is just the worst. Can you beat Fallout 3 with only a Chinese pistol? If you've seen my videos, you know that I don't make exaggerations, which is why you can trust me when I say that the Fork Barbarian plushie made by Makeship is the greatest plushie in the known universe. No matter what you ask of it, the Fork Barbarian is up to the task. It can defend your most prized possessions, protect you from monsters as you sleep, help you pack on muscle mass, keep you company while you wait for the holidays, calm you down as you lose it all because you bet on the Lions, take in a beautiful piece of art, talk you out of having another drink, and much, much more. But you've gotta act fast. The plushie is only available for 2 more weeks. If you don't order yours by October 5th for the incredible price of $24.99, your life will never be all that it could have been. The first thing you're gonna notice about this playthrough is that none of it is in English. That's because I didn't think restricting myself to a firearm would be enough of a challenge, so I killed 2 birds with 1 bullet by playing Fallout 3 with only a Chinese pistol and in a language I can't understand. Originally, I wanted to do this in Chinese as a funny haha because of the gun name, but that wasn't an option on Steam. It's probably for the best, all things considered. I'm sure I'm on a list after what I put in my Operation Anchorage thumbnail anyway. The Chinese pistol is in the small guns category and is based around agility, which is why I maxed that out. Luck also influences all skills. Intelligence is for as many experience points as possible, and I spread out the rest pretty evenly, except for charisma. Being charismatic is one of the worst values someone can have. Trust me, I'd know. Speech isn't the Frank Horrigan of skills in Fallout 3 like it is in New Vegas. No reason to waste any time with it. Speaking of wasting time though, the time had come for my 10th birthday party. It was an odd experience. I've done this part of Fallout 3 so many times that even when I couldn't see what the dialogue choices were, I still pretty much remembered what everyone was saying. It's strange to be able to navigate menus and make choices when you don't know what the language is. After failing to cut off Butch's head with a plate, I escaped the vile gaze of Beatrice Armstrong, got my BB gun, and made a decision. I'm not playing this as a child or a baby, so I'm going to kill the roach. But there was something I've always been curious about. To satisfy that quandary, I took my gun to the door, manipulated the universe around me, got myself into a situation you're not supposed to be in, and pumped the Overseer full of baby lead. I don't know what BBs are made out of. I wanted to know what would happen if the Overseer died early. He can't. He just has an aneurysm and takes a nap. But Stanley is around when you take the goat and during your escape. He's the perfect candidate for my bullshit. I popped his head like a raisin and nearly lost my mind. Stanley's hat is so f***ing cool. Ready to see the fruits of my labor and Stanley's life, I returned to the basement, shot the bug, got the greatest birthday photo ever, told Dad to take his stethoscope and shove it up his ass, and had my brain crushed. Stanley, that motherfucker, is back from the dead, and unfortunately, I couldn't kill him again. Someone who isn't me should see if it's possible to kill Stanley 3 times. Once as a child, somehow during the goat section, and again during the escape. Regarding skills, I went with small guns, obviously, medicine, and repair. I woke up, got a gun, watched Butch's mother get eaten alive as punishment for her son not being decapitated during my birthday party as the party's form of entertainment, snagged as much 10mm ammo as I could, and escaped. Before entering Megaton, I made sure to loot the hollowed out rock behind the city. Bought stim packs from the doctor in exchange for my garbage, got the armored vault suit from Moira, and of course she didn't have a Chinese pistol. As I browsed the World Wide Web in search of a list of where the C pistol can be found, I went ahead and bathed in the glow of Adam's glory to get some easy experience. During that process, I decided to follow the main quest line more closely than I usually do. It wouldn't make sense to skip most of the game when the challenge is based around using a disgustingly bad gun. No offense, Pooh Bear, I'm sure you guys make great shit. I can't wait to be killed by one day that's wielded by a giant autonomous robot mouse in suspenders. There are a couple locations where the C pistol is effectively guaranteed to be found, but none of them are conveniently close by. They can be found on raiders or randomly in some locations, but random isn't something I can tolerate. My first destination in search of a handgun was the Super Duper Mart. There's one locked in the pharmacy because the pharmacist was a gamer. Also, real quick, the gameplay is probably not super smooth. I recently joined the rest of you in the 21st century by upgrading my iMac to one with an SSD instead of a traditional hard drive. But I had to reinstall Windows on this new computer, and one of the problems I faced was my capture card not working. So I had to go back to OBS, which has f***ed me in the past, and now again in the present, and will again in the future. By the way, I lied. Super Duper Mart was not my destination. At least, not yet. I had no real destination. Rivet City was my failsafe. I hoped that I'd stumble across a sea pistol before I got there, and as luck would have it, a fisherman had one. You know what that means. The feral infesting Willem's Wharf can finally die. I put a few bullets through her brain case. She dropped to the ground like a sack of pudding. I entered her house, took what I wanted, left, and the game did not crash. Take a breath. Breathe in the air. Unless you live on the West Coast, then don't do that. We're entering a new era of mankind. As bad as 2020 has been, we can enjoy the fact that the curse of Grandma Sparkle is over. With my pistol, I entered Super Duper Mart for a training session. This gun, even on the easiest difficulty, is worse than I thought. Critical shots and headshots can help, but you're generally looking at 5 or more shots to kill a simple raider. They can easily take more though. This one took 9 shots. It's almost impressive how truly awful it is. The only saving grace is that 10mm ammo is among the most common in the wasteland, and because the gun is mass-produced cheap bullshit, it's a frequent find in low-income areas. Still wanting to follow the main quest, I entered the metro station. The end of this road I'm on leads to Galaxy News Radio, where a dog supposedly has information about my father. The weak ghouls chewed through ammo like you wouldn't believe. Nearly 25 bullets were wasted on these 4 ghouls. I didn't even try to take down the super mutant, I just let him get swarmed by strangers. That triggered his anxiety, caused a mental breakdown, and he died. Let that be a lesson to you youngsters. Despite not wanting anything to do with the Shrek wannabes, I still made sure to loot all the pretty corpses Cat Club made as they pushed through the destroyed buildings towards GNR. If you couldn't tell by the size of this unit or his name because it's in German, this is the Super Mutant Behemoth, and he is otherworldly strong. 5 headshots with VATS, didn't even take out 1 sliver of his health bar. That's scary. I let everyone else do all the work. Crawled around inside him, looking for treats, met 3 Dog, couldn't convince him to spill his guts, so I did it for him. Except, because I learned nothing, I had no leads. He normally gives you the key to this door, but the dead bastard hid it from me. A lock is impenetrable. I had a plan though. I returned to Megaton, looking for ammo, stim packs, and supplies. Got none of them. Waited outside her house for several days while she resupplied. Bought a second pistol to improve the condition of mine, and began making my way to Rivet City. I had 200 rounds for my weapon, but this is the equivalent of like a handful of shotgun bullets or a dozen hunting rifle shells. Speaking of bullets, I bit one on the way to Rivet City. The Jefferson Memorial's gonna have to be cleared out sometime. Might as well do it now that I've got some ammo to spare. I expected this to be worse than it was, especially after dealing with the raiders earlier. I mean, it wasn't good by any means. Some mutants took 9 headshots to send at God, and don't even get me started on the armored one. The Chinese pistol is better than the BB gun, not only in the amount of damage it does per shot, actually it's not, according to the Fallout Wiki anyway, but the pistol fires faster, which makes it the better weapon, even if it's not by much. I entered the memorial with 220 ammo and left with 75, even after finding some ammo in the building. Thankfully, Lucky Harith had several Chinese pistol on his person, allowing me to greatly improve the condition of mine, before entering Rivet City to do the same thing again. From there, having listened to Dad's recording of Coral Blue number 10, I traveled to Vault 101 to set off for Vault 112. I might have gone through some more ammo than I would have liked to get there, but I still got there. Entered the simulation, solved the puzzle in the abandoned house, summoned the comrades to help me purge those who thought wrong, told Dad I'd meet him in Sovngarde, and waited several days for the bridge to Rivet City to extend. Conveniently, that was the same amount of time that restocked flak and shrapnel, meaning more ammo for your favorite Yellow Bear's handgun. Back at the memorial, I decided to test the waters a bit by executing a few of the scientists who annoyed me with their make-believe facts. Alex Dargan ended his life where his mother spent hers, on a pole. Not long after I flippered the switches, the Enclave arrived to ruin everyone's day. Don't worry about that icon below Fallout 3. The Soldat der Enclave were somehow tougher than I thought, and also not. Like, this took 22 shots to go to sleep if you include the shots I missed. They also have an affinity for violating the laws of in-game physics by dashing towards you and crippling my cranium shell. I had plenty of stim packs because, believe it or not, I did actually plan ahead a little, but it's still annoying. Back at the rotunda, I cheesed my way inside the purifier, took Daddy's clothes off his dead body, did the same thing to Colonel Autumn, because I've got a surprise for him later, embraced the love of Adam, put on Dad's skin, and led the 2 remaining scientists through the rat way beneath Riften. The ghouls, most likely due to my maxed out small gun skill, were easier than the ones I didn't face earlier in the playthrough. With the location of Vault 87 fully ingrained in my head, I set off for a little lamplight. I wanted to try to avoid using any glitches in this run, ignore me phasing myself through the wall, and killing the main antagonist before you're supposed to. Usually, I'd be sure to take the Child at Heart perk to make getting inside lamplight easy. However, it requires charisma of 4, and if you've heard me after movie night in the Mitten Squad Discord, you know that my charisma is well into the negatives. But before entering the land of midgets, I stopped by Rivet City, Megaton, and Tenpenny Tower to buy myself as much ammo as I could find, and I got myself a pretty solid amount. I also made sure to hotkey stim packs, a radiation suit, regular armor, Radaway, and Radax to number keys because it's not uncommon for the game to the bed after entering Little Lamplight. Much to my surprise, I was able to bring up my Pip-Boy. Notice that I'm not using the fancy tablet one anymore. But this is still a Fallout game, and it crashed. Well, I think that's what happened. I couldn't bring up my gun, not the end of the world, but I didn't really want to be defenseless in Vault 87 again, so I just restart the game. See this screen? I was on this for almost 15 minutes. I couldn't just brute force my way out of the game by shutting down the computer, as that would have corrupted my OBS recording. I won't dwell on this for too long because I have no footage to show for it, but what I had to do was navigate OBS on my second monitor, go into the settings, make a keyboard shortcut for the stop recording button. Mind you, I'm doing all of this with the keyboard because the mouse doesn't work, then stop the recording that way with that shortcut before restarting the computer. This is proof that iMacs are the superior gaming machine. Only the Stadia comes close. After restarting the computer, the problem solved itself, I think. Despite nearly losing myself in my own mind, after Fallout 3 gave me a big bazinga, I, for reasons not even God knows, didn't pull out my gun to attack any of the super mutants. You might think that because I'm me, I'd have a solid understanding of what goes on inside my head, but you'd be wrong. I released Fox to provide a distraction, slipped into something more comfortable, activated the geek coffer, didn't accidentally cause an implosion by choosing the wrong option with the Gek. Colonel Pumpkin Spice was alive and well, or his twin brother was. I gathered my gear from the nearby locker and began my escape. I could tell by this guy's glowing orange eyes that he was up to no good, and as the arbiter of all things that might be true, I took it upon myself to end his life. I failed, took out my frustrations on a scientist. Hopefully he was friends with the officer. Emotional pain is worse than physical pain because it leaves scars that can never really heal. Nathan from Megaton was here too. I made sure to take the key to his house so I could pay his wife a visit before I blow up the city. Launched another scientist head into orbit, stuck some bullets in this third one's bullet holster, met President Eden, somehow managed to convince him to destroy the bunker despite not being able to speak the language of the gods. Fox showed up outside the bunker. I was surprised and a little disappointed that he didn't die down in Vault 87 like I'd intended. Back at the Citadel, I was gifted a suit of power armor, was pretty f***ing mad that I'd told the in charge of Cat Club that I was ready for battle, so I couldn't buy more ammo from Durga. I did give her a parting gift before going on my merry way. As always, the march towards freedom was both uninteresting and filled to the brim with the corpses of feral communists. It could have just been me, but it seemed like Liberty Prime was larger than normal. It might have just been because I was paying attention to this part of the game instead of ignoring it like I usually do. I did, however, catch a glimpse of God. He was a little more disgusting than I thought he would be. In the exact same instance that I paused reality to stare into God's eyes, a wild hand just so happened to be flying over the sea. If rainbows are associated with God in the Bible, they might be, I have no idea. It's fitting that a bloody severed hand in the sky is associated with this monstrosity of a god in Fallout 3. I made sure to become Colonel Autumn before confronting Colonel Autumn. It wasn't as cinematic as I was hoping it would be. In the end, I volunteered Colonel Autumn to go into the Purifier to sacrifice himself. I told Sarah Lyons how I really felt about her, activated the Purifier, and did not beat Fallout 3 with only a Chinese pistol, but I did beat it in a foreign language that I can't understand. Have you ever wanted to kill a dog with a plunger? How about an old woman with the teddy bear that used to belong to her grandson, who you also just killed? If you're the one person in the world who wants to do that, Fallout 3 is the game for you. Can you beat Fallout 3 with only a rocket launcher? The rocket launcher is something truly special. It's the first big gun I've ever used in Fallout 3. That's a true fact, don't bother looking it up. I'll know if you do, and I'll remember. When you finally die, I won't let the real game begin. I'll force you to do the tutorial forever. Because it's a rather large weaponry, it's an endurance-based weapon, not strength like you'd expect. It's heavy and you need endurance to hold it up for a long time. If you can take a great deal of pain, you're basically a weightlifter, which makes me the world's strongest toddler. Special points go into endurance for big guns, intelligence for skill points upon leveling up, luck for all skills, and the rest don't matter much. I'll tell you right now that this is a very, okay, well let's see what happens if I do this playthrough. Lots of shenanigans and nonsense. Just as if, for instance, I spawned in a dozen clones of my dead mother and watched in horror as they did whatever it is a woman who died in childbirth does when they're brought back to life. I even turned one of them into a man. Dad didn't seem to react at all. One by one, they began to migrate somewhere. Dad talked. For some reason, the sideways balloon enamored me. I tried my hardest to get Beatrice down into the birthday bug dungeon for a special surprise. I wanted the roach to eat her. It didn't work out. I killed her, medicine, bartered big guns as skills, and escaped. After being forcefully kicked out into the world by an unforgiving home that didn't want me anymore, my first and only objective was to obtain the rocket launcher schematics. That's right, Bob the Builder's still dead, but we can carry on his legacy by murdering people with ordinary household objects. That's actually number 1431 in the book Extraordinary Uses for Ordinary Things, 2,317 Ways to Save Money and Time, that I got from the book fair as a kid. F***ing air freshener. Shut up, I should just turn that off. Like most weapons in the real world, it only takes 4 components to build. 5 if you include your brain containing the knowledge of how to put them together. A vacuum cleaner, a leaf blower, a fire hose nozzle, and a conductor. Like the dart gun, these things are all relatively common. The schematics are also quite easy to obtain. They can be bought from Moira or Crazy Wolfgang, found in Rivet City, or stolen from your deadbeat father's framed quote in his office. Did I say they're easy to get? That was an exaggeration, like saying my eyes are close together. You can buy them all from Moira. The trick is to get 1080 caps needed to buy it. I should point out that I installed a few more mods for this playthrough. One adds a bunch of new locations to make the world feel more alive, and the other adds more monsters so that world is more deadly than ever. With no way to attack anything yet, my goal was to desecrate corpses to sell their innards for easy money, to kill 2 birds with 1 imaginary stone. I went out to the minefield. Moira wants a mine. Mines reward XP when collected, and can be sold for a pretty nickel. Not as pretty as Philip or the nickel I swallowed and shit out when I was 4. It almost killed me, but they're still solid nickels. Still not at the goal. I robbed a grocery store of its grenades and whatnot. They're common in grocery stores starting right now. If you want to have a fun time, next time you get groceries, or when you get them when you're older, since most of you watching this are teenagers, ask the cashier if they have a grenade. If they say no, say nothing for a second, make a big smile, put your hand on theirs, and quietly ask, "Would you like one?" Another thing to point out, we're into recording 2 now, and I don't usually do this, but by the end of this recording I was hammered, to the point where I don't remember what I did in the game. But we'll get there. After the market, I had to finish chapter 1 of the survival guide to make more money. I hurt myself emotionally for money in real life, why shouldn't I do it in a game too? But it was still not enough, so I went through the main quest without attacking anything until I had the necessary caps. We've been here before, let's breeze through it. Metro station with the ghouls. Pussy Squad involved themselves in my business. I leveled up at GNR. The Margaret Thatcher of Super Mutants showed up. Her death was a beautiful sight to behold. I met Mr. Dog. The radiation clung to me pretty hard, and I'm proud to say I figured it out myself. Somehow I got lost and forgot what I was doing. Figured it out eventually, bought the components, bought the blueprints, built my toy, got it fixed, and began my adventure. Not the main quest. The rocket launcher is effectively a junk jet. Most junk items can be fired from it. They all do the same damage but can be picked up after being fired. So as long as you don't litter like human scum, ammo is infinite. This is the perfect playthrough to take in a few side missions and attempt to enjoy Fallout 3 for the first time in my life. And nothing says pleasure like killing Grandma Sparkle and taking her shit. The mine strip on the bridge was a real struggle. The mines at my feet kept breaking my skull. I watched Brian Wilkes run for his life for a little while using the third-person free cam console command. I wanted to know where he'd go or what creature would eat him. Little bitch got away. Now the rocket launcher is a pretty great weapon. In fact, of all the big guns in the game, it does the most damage per shot if you exclude area of effect damage from weapons like the missile launcher or Fat Man. As a comparison, the rocket launcher does 50 damage per shot, which is the same as Lincoln's repeater. Really, the only drawback is that because you're firing trash, you've got to take projectile arc into consideration. Also, there's the fact that your ammo has weight. You could get creative and use pre-war money since it weighs nothing. A rogue synth is on the loose, and I want him to have the most human experience possible. I want to return him to a life of torment against his will. He's in Rivet City. Makes sense. He's a machine. He needs to be with his people. Of course, the Jefferson Memorial is on the way. Why not stop in for a quick localized genocide? The centaur in the rotunda made me laugh. His hands were up. I knew he really didn't want to hurt me. That's why I killed him. I took someone's head off with a magic 8-ball. If any of you are looking to die anytime soon, hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to test that in real life. The birds are kind of a pushover. They take 6 to 8 shots to kill, but when the rocket launcher can fire up to 3.3 shots per second, that's really not anything worth sending a carrier pigeon home over. Back outside, my hunt for the replicated man raged on. I sold garbage like guns and ammo to some fool who was willing to pay for them. Got a hint about my guy. Mei Wong put her hands up just like the centaur, and this nosy bitch stuck her face in my business when I engaged her in conversation. She likes trains and wants me to help the android. To that end, I gave the component she gave me to Zipper, leveled up again, turned my body into an estate sale by selling my stuff over and over again to the common folk in the market, and went to find Smith Casey's garage. On the way there, I took a quick break to see how high my fired items would go. Lost track of it immediately. Went on a trip to see what lies at the boundaries of the universe, and nearly got torn apart by a gang of rainbow ghouls, courtesy of one of the mods I installed. I like this mod a lot. When you kill the night ghouls, you can take out their eyeballs and it makes their head explode. About halfway to the garage, I set my sights on a detour. There is a man who, throughout all my Fallout 3 challenges, I haven't met yet. I did go ahead and throw random items at the rats because I can, and because there are many an item inside that can be used as an executionatory device to end someone else's adventure. That's a word I made up. Back to the minefield I went, to finally wipe Arkansas off the map and continue onwards towards my special man. I found the remains of a book fair inside an abandoned house, oopsie-daisied my way into an early grave, freed a slave in the basement after taunting her for a bit, and made one of the greatest discoveries in human history. There exists a sexy slave collar. Part of me is surprised that wasn't added into Fallout the Frontier. You might think it'd be too on the nose to give a sexy slave collar to a soldier captured by the Legion and turned into a slave, but if you've played the mod, you know there's no such thing as too on the nose. They broke the nose. I should point out that, after looking it up, that slave collar most likely comes from the DC Interiors mod. I didn't know it was a thing when I installed the mods I was installing, all of which you can see here. I only took it because the idea of me wearing it was funny, not the idea of slavery itself. I probably don't need that disclaimer, but after all the surrounding the Frontier, I'm saying it anyway. I went and got myself sidetracked again. Closer to my man, I was given the old yellow treatment by a pack of wild hogs. Somewhere along the way I killed someone with something that was ironic. Might have been a pack of cancer sticks, maybe an empty whiskey bottle. I can't remember what it was or find the clip, but I'll put it in here now in the video, now that I've explained it without turning it into a joke. At long last, I arrived at Oasis. Spoke to Tree Father Birch. Just realized right now as I'm writing this that his name is a tree pun. I drank the sacred sap, was greeted by the Greybeards, and met the big man himself, Harold. He has been rooted into the ground for decades, and all he wants is what we all want. He wants to die. Unfortunately for him, suicide is not an option. Usually when someone tells me they can't kill themselves, I tell them to believe in themselves and put their back into it. But Bob went and fucked with his insides, and he doesn't really have a back anymore. His options are limited. The tree people only hear what they want to hear. They see his cries for death as a sign from God that he must be protected and worshipped. As we all learned in science class, trees are sexless. But more importantly, they're naturally resistant to bullets. But his heart lies beneath the surface of the earth, and destroying that will free him. Naturally, I killed his entire flock to see what his reaction would be. It was about what I expected. Then I went and bought a flamer because I wanted to have myself a little bonfire. He screamed for longer than I thought, and burned well into the next morning. I really wanted to see his charred corpse, but I'm not patient enough for that. So I reloaded a save, got 2 items from the tree people, one to halt his spread, the other to speed it up, and entered the caves, unsure of what my next move would be. The Mirelurks and Mirelurk Kings were without a doubt the toughest enemies in the game so far. Finally, at his heart, I pondered my choices. On one hand, I want him to suffer as much as possible, but on the other, I really do enjoy killing things. In the end, I went with the option to spread him all over the wasteland. The farther he grows, the longer he'll survive. Sadly, he came around to the idea, embraced his new life. The townspeople remembered today is my birthday after I lied to them about today being my birthday so I could get presents, and I went on my way. Not back to rescuing my father. If he's lasted this long, what's another couple days? I've killed innocent creatures. I've loitered. I've said some things that are very unbecoming of a good Christian boy like me, but I have yet to pull off the perfect heist. I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence, just like Ghost Rider did. Abraham Washington tipped me off about its location, and I returned to GNR Radio to begin my journey. Since I've last been there, I've leveled up a few times, which awoke a whole new breed of super mutants. They're like rabbits, and when you add inbreeding into the mix, things get out of hand very quickly. The first set of tunnels was uneventful. The Battle of the Water Fountain was the opposite. I strategically activated several mines to distract the raiders with my blown off limbs, so I could blast them with ordinary household objects. Before long, I arrived at the mall, where I killed the Brotherhood Initiate. It was his own fault, shouldn't have been out there by himself when he knew I was on my way. I had a feeling someone would expect foul play when his head was gone, so I placed his body on a shopping cart, and put another nearby to make it look like gang violence, and entered the National Archive for probably the first time in 11 years. I don't think I've been in this building since one of my first playthroughs of this game, long before Mitten Squad was a thing, and I began my search. I really didn't think I'd see a piranha plant inside. I thought they went extinct with morality several centuries ago. After checking every room I entered for a giant sign pointing me towards the document, I made my way to the entrance, helped Sydney fend off a few waves of mutants, used her secret entrance to get into a hole, and from within the basement, continued my quest for paper goods. Because I lacked the know-how required to open a door, I took to the basement to find another route to success. The robots infesting the lower levels were incredibly unprepared for me. They never expected someone to use tin cans, used soda bottles, and destroyed books as a weapon. I killed Prim Slim's cousin on instinct alone, went back in time, put on my sexiest outfit and slave collar, and engaged him in the art of conversation. Mr. Buttons still believes he's living in a long since forgotten fantasy land that was 2004, which was honestly my greatest year. Me and my brother made a home movie about a killer gingerbread dog toy named Happy. One day I'm gonna find it and I'll share it with the world. Buttons and I planned a double cross. I'm gonna make love to a squid to obtain its ink to allow Buttons to make a perfect forgery of the document. Squidward lies in the dark underbelly of the Arlington Library. On the way there, I got into a large-scale conflict with Tail and Company. It was a real mess after I got done blowing their limbs off. Scribe Yearling dared to ask me to hand over my pre-war books, as if I'd actually give her my most valuable ammunition. She and her people died for that. I like to think Arthur the Aardvark was looking This is so dumb. I like to think Arthur the Aardvark was looking down on me from heaven with pride as I killed them all inside the library, because he was right the entire time. Having fun isn't hard if you have a library card. Once I got the ink sac, I returned to Buttons. He made me a forgery. I used his terminal to unseal all the locks, took the real Declaration of Independence for myself, and traveled to Rivet City to claim my prize. My hubris and desire to commit petty crimes came back and bit me in the fanny. Abraham took both the forgery and the real document. I'd have killed him, but violence is not the answer today. You see, I woke up Thomas Jefferson in the basement before I left the National Archive, and his prime directive is to protect democracy. Abraham Washington will taste the cold metal arm of justice one day. day. From there, it was back to the business of finding my father. But here's the thing about this playthrough. You already know how the main quest line's gonna go down. I have a weapon that does damage. Of course it's possible to finish the game with it. There are only so many ways I can explain the same things over and over again, which is why instead I'm gonna focus on all the weird shit I did to entertain myself while I played Fallout 3 and listened to a podcast about aliens abducting and people. In the future of VR that Zuckerberg wants for us all, I summoned the Chinese and tried to turn children into communists by force. When that didn't work, I turned Braun's Eternal Nightmare into a memorial for Achievement City by recreating the Field of Giants as best I could. In Rivet City, I started changing every person I saw on the molecular level. Madison Lee became a man, Dad became a giant woman, Garza became a monster, Mrs. Father sacrificed himself to kill Colonel Pumpkin Spice, and we escaped into the tunnels. Knowing that in a few minutes Lee would be nagging about wanting to save Garza from a panic attack, I took precautionary measures by killing him and the other scientist. Then I found out something I never knew. There are many armors in this game that have versions for both men and women, but some, like Elder Lion's armor, is unique and has no version for the other side. So if you turn Lions into a woman, he wears a Vault 101 jumpsuit instead. I'm not sure about the missing hand though. I can't think of any reason why it would be gone. I could somewhat understand a gap in the wrist because of there being no Pip-Boy, but not the hand. The only explanation I can come up with is that Lions normally wears gloves, and the jumpsuit has no gloves, so there is no texture for his hand. But if that's the case, why isn't he missing both? Maybe these are questions we're not meant to ask, like why these two knights are different heights. I swear on my own grave that I had nothing to do with it. Down in Lamplight, I glitched myself inside, remembered that I wouldn't be able to draw a weapon, so I went to free the children. It took all the ammo I had to extinguish the slavers. Old Man Willoughby refused to abandon his post. I set him free, got into Murder Pass, and tried to kill Fox. I should have known you can't kill God. After 130 shots being fired with big guns at 100 and a dose of Psycho, his health barely budged. Near the Gek, I had me an experiment. You can activate the Gek and blow yourself to Kingdom Come Deliverance. If you enable God mode, your character survives but is in a coma. However, something I never even considered using was the resurrect command on myself. Deep down, I always knew it would work. Think about it. How else could Jesus have woken up after he got turned into a pinboard? I wanted to see two things. First, if I activate the Gek and still had control, would Fox be able to give me the Gek? And second, if he didn't give me the Gek but I still activated it, what else in the game could still happen? For the first thing, Fox can still get you the Gek, but the game is obviously broken. My weapon's f***ed up, and I don't exist in third person anymore. I sped up time to get Fox to the chamber in under 12 hours. I also hoped that I'd be able to take his torn up vault suit as armor for myself, but it's not an option. It's most likely his texture. What's weird is that he can still get you the Gek, but he doesn't go into the infirmary to get it. After leaving the vault, I increased my speed by about 1200% to get back to the Citadel quickly. I was Icarus, and Todd Howard melted my wings when I flew too close to the sun. The game crashed. Back again, I chose to be a Nerf dart rather than a normal bullet when flying through the sky, and returned to the Citadel. Unsurprisingly, nothing happened. Went back to the lab in an old save, snagged the Gek, got captured by the Enclave, and the game crashed. Tried it again, and it crashed again. I made an executive decision here. You already know the rest of the game is possible. Wake up in the base, kill the Enclave, return to the Citadel, follow Liberty Prime, activate the Purifier. There's no reason why it can't be done at this stage, and that's why I didn't even bother with the rest of the game. I quit there, and did not beat Fallout 3 with only a rocket launcher. And if you're wondering, quitting challenges is not something I'm planning on doing on a more frequent basis. I only did it here because it was Thursday evening when I wrapped up the playthrough. Normally I'm done by Tuesday, but I spent Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday trying to beat Halo Combat Evolved without taking damage, and I got stuck on the second to last level and decided to do this instead since I knew it was possible. Halo Combat Evolved will be next week's video. There are many weapons in Fallout 3. Some are cobbled together by the average wastelander who's just trying to get by. Some are handcrafted with hate to kill a loved one. But only one weapon is fancy enough to have a title in its name. Can you beat Fallout 3 with only the Mist Launcher? Up first, just like in rehearsal, was my birth. Todd welcomed the lovely Paulina into the world. My mother flatlined, and the next thing I knew, I was alive. Believe it or not, explosives will be worthless because the Mist Launcher is a variation of the Missile Launcher, and the Missile Launcher family of weapons are in the big gun side of the tree, while grenades and throwable explosives are on the explosive side. That makes the special setup for this challenge kind of a pain in the ass. There's only one place to find the mist launcher, and it's locked behind a 75 lockpick door. And if you haven't noticed yet, I'm playing on console for a reason I'll get to in a second, so I can't quick save quick load my way through the door. Intelligence is a necessity for getting skill points when leveling up. Endurance is for big guns, and to hopefully grow into an emotionless bullet sponge later in life. Charisma has to be at least 4 to get the Child at Heart perk. Of course, luck is a social influencer that affects all skills. And the rest don't matter. I made my HUD orange, just like the default color in New Vegas, hated it instantly, but refused to change it back, and before I knew what hit me, I was almost 10 years old. Can you believe it? A surprise party all for me. Music, balloons, a floating clown. I had a great time until it was time to go kill the dog. In an effort to cause as many uncomfortable situations as possible, I stuck coffee mugs in everyone's pockets, thinking if I got the entire vault to hate me, someone with a weapon would bash me over the skull with a party hat. When that didn't work, I settled for executing the roach and pumped BBs into the gaping hole where my dad's heart used to be before I destroyed it. With my father having just been pelted into unconsciousness, Jonas told me to think about how much fun a child could have with a gun. I got a fantastic birthday picture, Dad checked me for lice, and I started picking skills. There's more to this than meets the eye. My skills were big guns, barter, and sneak. You should be concerned that the challenge involved a missile launcher, and I've chosen to sneak. 3 years later, it's the end of the world. The rad roaches I mourned in another life ripped Officer Kendall's leg off and were moments away from eating Butch's mother when I failed to convince him to leave her behind. In the atrium, I alerted the guards to my presence to save the lives of 2 innocent vault dwellers. I'm not sure where they went. 1 second they were about to make a run for it, and the next they were gone. I'm also not sure why there were so many roaches. I didn't question it. My dream of pretending to command an army of roaches had become a reality. The only man they weren't willing to assault was the Overseer. The vault door doesn't matter anymore. We've got a wasteland to save. With 19 points to spend at level 2, I felt stuck in my own shoes. Lockpick of 75 is a must. Barter is needed for buying missiles. Medicine and sneak are crucial. 1 level isn't enough to raise any skills high enough to survive me out here by my lonesome, and I'm completely incapable of hurting anything until I get the mist launcher located at Fort Independence. Compared to other places I've had to travel to, Fort Independence is a dream due to how close it is to Vault 101. Seconds after my body plummeted down from orbit like an ODST, Defender Morgan told me to keep my head down, as if that's not what I just damn near broke my legs trying to do. In order to get my hands on the mist launcher, a couple things will have to happen, as I've already alluded to. Starting with scrap metal. I'm playing on the worst console known to man, the Series X, so I can't console command hundreds of missiles into my inventory. I'm certainly not playing on an Xbox because back in February, Drunk Paul did so much damage to his Fallout 3 install on his Mac that it's been broken beyond repair for half a year. It's also unrelated to some commenter saying my last New Vegas runs didn't count because of mods. Of course, just like with the Dart Gun Challenge, when you actually need scrap metal, it's almost impossible to find. On the West Coast, I used beanbags to become God. Back here in the nation's capital, I'll be using recycled steel to accomplish the same goal. Together, hand in hand, we can rebuild this wasteland. All we have to do is recycle our plastic, turn off the air conditioner that shouldn't even be conscious in the first place, and we can save our planet from us. I should explain what I'm doing instead of just lingering on a bunch of nothing. I'm gonna use scrap metal to power level myself up to the point where I can kick down any unlocked door. To not get too carried away early, I won't spoil how this exploit works. Unbeknownst to me in the past, there are only 67 scrap metal in the entirety of Fallout 3. Megaton's got like 2 of them. However, sometimes if you search a pregnant metal box, you can find a scrap metal inside. On the topic of love, one of my eyes caught the attention of Mr. Burke. The lovely Paulina convinced Burke to light a 10-penny tall tower regarding the bomb being worshipped in the center of town. And I went outside to risk it all. You only live once. My lungs have been on the verge of collapse since I was born. There's no time for games. Colin wasn't as into me as I was, so I broke into Billy Creel's house, stole his CDs and his teddy bear, and continued my search for valuables in the women's bathroom. Someone left a fork and knife in the tub. Whoever it was figured out which utensil is the whore and was too horrified to stick around to tell anybody about it. I'll save you 4 minutes of frustration and boredom and tell you that I never found any scrap metal in Megaton. The Fallout Wiki's got a list of places to find scrap metal, but the problem is that every location in Fallout 3 is in Fallout 3, so it's a pain in the ass to get to. Subway tunnels, for instance, happen to be right in the pathway of you-know-who. From the safety of outside her render distance, I contemplated my move. The curse of Grandma Sparkle was sealed up just like Doom Guy. Impossible for it to smite me again. The knew this. She knew Paulina was a being so far below her that she broke through the negativity barrier and ascended into god-tier status. Just before entering her apartment, I decided to put the challenge on hold. This bitch dies. Killing her in her own house will stop the curse forever, unless she fucking vanishes out of thin air. In all my years, I never expected her to leave like that. There are no exits. You saw her run inside, and I was right in front of the fucking door. There's nowhere she could have gone. What we've learned here today is that Grandma Sparkle is not a person. She's an idea. Anyone can be Grandma Sparkle. Any fool with a gun can dress like a slut and become Grandma Sparkle. Yeah, she's back. I'm not sure where she went or where she came from. I didn't see any meteors kiss the sky over DC. Regardless, there's only room in this madman's mind for one deity, and I've already told you what I've got planned for me. I sat there with her all through the night. Did a fucking sweet jump over this bush, reminded the kid that I'm still not helping him, exploded all 3 of my legs in a freak minefield accident, and entered the Hubris Comics Tunnels underpass. Being the only girl Paul in a comic shop, I should have known I'd get mauled to death. Closing the door to the closet while I was in it wasn't a safe choice either. I only came in here to find trash and was leaving disappointed. I went from one sewer to a drier sewer to the bowels of hell. The metro station I emerged from opened up into a train station. A single Brotherhood paladin was on the scene and used his superior combat knowledge to best all the mutants remaining at the train convention. At level 3, I put all the points into sneak, returned to Megaton, bought 26 stim packs from the doctor, had 2 scrap metal, only needed 1 more, and remembered that the Super Duper Mart is full of boxes ready to be plundered. I hit the mother load, but that load did not come easy. Raiders of every shape and size swarmed me as I tried to learn how to computer. The Messiah rescued me when all other options failed. I was still mildly perturbed by the orange HUD, found a scrap metal, and with all 3 scrap metal, returned to Proctor Kasdan to begin the end, almost. I was still 1 scrap shy of achieving my final form. You know where they probably have steel out the ass. Fort Independence, and I just so happened to have lifted the key out of Kasdan's pocket. Down in America's colon, I found both the door to the mist launcher and an unbelievably 3 pieces of scrap metal. As we all know from Fallout New Vegas' Dead Money DLC, finding them isn't the hard part, it's getting out alive with them. The outcasts have not yet learned that I'm one of them, which means I'm an outcast to the outcast. Legally, I'm a normal person now, but there are some lines even I won't cross. In place of figuring out which combination of words could trick them into loving me, I stole the metal, ran away into the night, and waited like Jesus for 3 days for Kasdan and friend to calm down. Through a bunch of trial and error, I figured out that the Brotherhood outcast will be hostile towards me if anyone catches any scent of me down in the basement. I have to remain completely hidden at all times. After several attempts, I managed to succeed not a single time. So I went to the one place I knew would have all the metal in the world, a steel mill. The dozen or so raiders attacked me on sight. Presumably they thought I was there to save the big orange princess they had locked behind an electric fence. Inside the mill was far more elaborate than I thought. There's an entire community of people down there you can't interact with because they're always hostile, except for Smiling Jack. I found him in the fields of misery moments after reclaiming my 4th piece of metal. Just before saying my goodbyes, I had him repair a few things, and just like that, he's dead. Silver linings, I found the barter bobblehead, found yet another scrap metal in a toolbox, and left Evergreen Mills to take my rightful place in the world. To make the exploit work, you need an even number of scrap metal and a stealth boy or a high enough sneak skill. Proctor Kasdan can take some pre-war technology in exchange for supplies like grenades or stim packs. Hand over all the stuff you've got, save the game, use the stealth boy, and steal back all the scrap metal you gave to him. Now turn it back in all but 2 of the scrap metal. Pickpocket him again, but get caught on purpose, and if you did it right, it will break the game. Fallout 3 now believes I have 2 scrap metal in my inventory when I really have none, so I can turn in an infinite number of them into Kasdan for as much 5.56 ammo, grenades, or stim packs as I desire. Alternatively, you can turn that endless scrap metal into Walter in Megaton for an easy experience infinity pool you can make at home without getting a permission slip signed. With this Fallout 3 Infinity Experience Exploit 2021 still working, I went all the way from level 3 to level 11 in a matter of minutes. What I didn't tell you about was Walter's insane wealth. He forks over 50 caps for 5 pieces of scrap metal, which put me north of 11,000 caps. Now, more than 10 minutes into this video, we're ready to go get the mist launcher from Fort Independence. Once I was there, I had to wait a little while longer. I got fed up with the f***ing notifications and it took minutes for them to finish popping up. With my highest lockpick skill possibly ever in a Fallout 3 video, I unsealed the door, examined all the goodies, obtained the missile launcher, and thought about where to test out this weapon I'd never used before this video. That cow in Wilhelm's Wharf is too unpredictable. Ghouls in the comic shop are a far better target. Talon Company intercepted me and forced my hand. As you can see, the missile launcher is not anything special. It's a missile launcher with erectile dysfunction. The missiles it fires don't fly through the air. They plop out onto the ground with an arc that makes the junk jet look like a propeller plane you got from a dollar store. Other than that, all the missile launchers got going for it is a higher damage than the regulation missile launcher. That's about all there is to the missile launcher. It's a pretty boring weapon. After wiping the floor with Talon Company, I came to the frightening realization that I picked the wrong system for this challenge. Ammunition for these kinds of powerful weapons in general is not a frequent find, and no amount of money can fix that or the bigger problem, time. Merchants restock their items on Sundays and Wednesdays, but in the irradiated hellscape that I call home, not many merchants have missiles. Moira isn't allowed to after what happened with Carl. Vendors like Lucky Harith and Crazy Wolfgang spawn too erratically to be relied on for anything. Some merchants do sell missiles, but you've got to complete a quest for them first. Grouse at Paradise Falls is one of those pricks. That leaves Tenpenny Tower and Rivet City. The raiders living under the bridge near the Citadel were far more ravenous than usual. I talked to Stupid for a minute, made a massive donation to the church, bought out the entire hospital to spite everyone in the town, discovered the Jefferson Memorial, was briefly distracted by my speed when power walking, and Shrapnel had more miniature nuclear warheads than he had missiles. From there, I power leveled myself up to level 13 with Walter's help, became a cannibal, rounded out a few skills for no reason, waited a couple more days for vendors to restock, bought a single missile from Mick and Ralph, and checked in at Tenpenny Tower for more missiles. Gustavo at the gate thought I was the ghoul rambling into the intercom just before someone exploded. He had 4 missiles, so if you include the 2 I wasted getting in, I'm up 2 in only about 10 minutes. After one more session, I'd gotten up to about 20 missiles, and with that, the real game began right around the time the sun started to set on this challenge. Earlier in the day, I checked my achievements for Fallout 3 and noticed that I hadn't hit level 14 yet. Waltered up to that level, the achievement didn't pop. I hit 15, nothing. I hit 16, nothing. 17, nothing. That rubbed me the wrong way. Despite my Xbox being worse than shit at doing anything other than crashing for no reason, I decided to push the f***er beyond its natural limits. I'm gonna go straight to Vault 87 without ever entering Tranquility Lane on console. The Child at Heart perk granted me access to the caverns, and I had a non-standard goal in mind. There's a door, somewhere, with a 75 science terminal to unlock. I never found it, and that upset something deep inside me. Knowing I was moments away from heading to Smith Casey's garage, I took a chance, and the dividends this paid made what I would have made from not selling all my Dogecoin at 7 cents look like chump change. Maybe this is common knowledge, maybe not. I didn't know about it until this video. You can technically use the quick save quick load exploit on console to clip through walls. Sticky's following me, by the way, he's unimportant. The real trick to this exploit is pulling it off with a controller. To clip through reality, you need to be constantly moving, then you save while moving forward. Load that save while moving forward. Maybe you'll be a hair forward. Save, load, and you're through the gate to Murder Pass. I sat there for a second, relishing in what I'd accomplished, while also being sad, because I'll never have a reason to use this again. But as soon as Sticky mentioned Toledo, I swung the door to Murder Pass open hard enough to cause an F-85 tornado, and actually used my gun like a gun on these goons. Super Mutant Masters were out and about, getting in my way, acting like jackasses at every opportunity. A bit deeper, I hit the fire alarm to set off the disco lights and release the hostages. The missiles I had left were near and dear enough to my heart to be named. I couldn't send them to their death unless it was a glorious one. The radiation in the Gek room was an afterthought. Megaton doesn't have a hospital anymore. Remember, I bought them out and left the doctor with the memory of medical supplies. Taking the Gek got me abducted by the Enclave, as intended. The orange HUD was still as off-putting as ever. One of my babies was a misfire that did nothing, another killed an officer, and that left a single missile as my failsafe. President Eden gave me his virus. Sticky appeared out of nowhere and was never seen again. I unlocked the Deathclaw cage with my lockpick skill of 75. The beast was unleashed. I played in his box, and when I came out, he was dead. My last missile made the noble sacrifice of killing an Enclave soldier, which got me one more missile and a missile launcher to improve my own. I'd say karma's a bitch, because I forgot that the door to the Citadel is sealed off, leaving me with 3 choices. I couldn't kidnap any of the missiles off this Brotherhood of Steel Paladin, leaving me with 2 choices. I can save scum my way around the collapsed side of the Citadel, eventually getting under the map itself, or I can just walk around the one barrier the Enclave put up. Colonel Autumn waited for me in the heart of Project Purity. Picking the right angle to warp through the glass required some thought. The more finicky the position you can jam yourself into before you start clipping, the better. I chose to climb up on the railing to deliver a message over the intercom. Keep jumping, keep moving, keep saving, keep loading, and you'll get through the wall eventually. All that remains is Augustus Autumn. He cannot be reasoned with, nor can he be killed. My sole surviving missile killed itself to knock out Colonel Autumn. I blanked on the code to set off the purifier, remembered it was 216. Sticky called it, Colonel Autumn lost it, and I beat Fallout 3 with only the miss launcher.